Hello viewers, today in this video I'm going to deal with the evolution of marketing concept, wherein I will discuss about the introduction aspect of the evolution as to how the evolution took place, then the various stages which are are involved in the development of the concept of marketing as to what we call it as the modern marketing concept as of today. So the first stage is self-sufficient stage, the second is the exchange oriented stage, then is the production oriented stage, the product oriented stage, the sales oriented stage, and the marketing oriented stage as to what is the marketing concept. And then I'm going to discuss about the difference between selling and marketing concepts with the examples, so as to have a better understanding on the both the aspects. And then the last is the social oriented stage, which is of a very recent phenomena. In case of any discussion or any query, you may please refer to the description box, and the details are given in the description box. So let us now understand the evolution of marketing concept. Now, when we talk about evolution, we are talking about the developments which took place from the primitive stage of marketing to this modern stage as of now. So, a correct understanding of marketing concept is a fundamental. That is when I say fundamental, the study of the modern marketing and the marketing management. As to how does this the marketing has evolved over a period of time from the primitive stage for the very initial stage to as to what we call it as now a modern marketing concept. So let us first understand as to what is a concept. What is this concept? When we talk about concept, as to what should we understand by this term as concept. So when we talk about concept, it is a philosophy, an attitude, and a sense of thinking, maybe an idea relating to any aspect of human creations. Now, that is the basic understanding of this term as concept. The philosophy of an organization in the dynamic realm of marketing. Dynamic realm of marketing means that it is an ever-changing department. It's an ever-changing activities in the business organization. So marketing, activities are ever-changing because it is largely dependent upon the external environment, and is referred to as a marketing concept. Marketing concept is an integration of marketing activities directed towards consumer satisfaction or the customer satisfaction. It is a way of life in which all resources of the organization are mobilized to create, to stimulate, and to satisfy the consumer at a profit. So when this is the which are all the resources of an organization. Resources means the it could be in terms of man, machine, material, and entrepreneurship, and it could be in terms of the four departments of the business organization or a manufacturing organization. And therefore, when this concept prevails, the marketing organization is future oriented, customer oriented, or value oriented, profit oriented. All these applies to modern management practices to all sales, distribution, and other marketing functions. Thus, the marketing philosophy has undergone a thorough and gradual change since industrial revolution that took place in the later half of the 18th century and the first half of the 19th century. The traditional objective of marketing has been to make goods available at places where they were needed. And this idea was later on changed by shifting the emphasis from exchange to satisfaction of human wants. Now, self-sufficient stage is the first stage. This is the first stage of the evolution, and therefore after the stage of nomads, people started to settle down on banks of river, largely to, so that they can use the water as a resource for the agriculture aspect, for or to produce the agricultural products. And this led to the study of economic activities, that is agriculture. But each family was self-sufficient unit as far as the production and the consumption functions were concerned. They produced what they wanted to consume, and practically no surplus was available to rather initiate the process of exchange. And therefore, no marketing was required. It is been considered as a self-sufficient stage. The second stage is the exchange-oriented stage. Now, by continuously engaged in the agriculture and allied operations and the similar operations, the problem of surplus production came, and this might necessitated exchange of surplus product with others. However, to smoothen exchanges, the barter system came in, and it was thus realized, because of the latent inconvenience, that the products were brought at a central place so that exchange will take place. And thus the understanding of this particular exchange oriented is thus the market came into existence. A market in the sense that there is a place where it where to so that the exchange may take place, continuously and with ease. So there is a demarcated place, and there are sellers and there are the buyers. Now, buyers and sellers, in the terms of that, both the parties, they have got their own products. There were no money in the economy, and therefore the barter system is the to exchange to against with the product. That is, product it exists exchange with the another product. This process is being called as a barter system, and therefore, to smoothen the changes, a place was created where these two parties with their own products, they meet each other, also to make it more convenient, so that the exchange of the products may take place. The third stage is the production oriented stage. That is, the central idea of this stage was to make what you know and how to make. That means you produce anything and everything you intend to. So this is the oldest concept of marketing till around the 1930s, and there prevailed a strong feeling that whenever a firm has a product considered to be that is a good product, it results in automatic consumer response, and that little or no promotional efforts are required. So this the at that stage, the production oriented stage, the production was considered to be the utmost importance. And they had the production means whatever product the organizations wanted to produce, they produce those, or they manufacture those products, and they sold it. And because all the products were new to the consumers, to the people, and therefore no marketing was required. And because the market was a big market or a larger market, and therefore whatever it was produced they were able to sell it. So this concept emphasizes that consumers favor those products that are available and are highly affordable. So highly affordable in the sense when the production is on a large scale. So therefore per unit cost comes down, because we have understood, we have studied earlier also in accounts, and there are two types of cost: the fixed cost and the variable cost. And therefore the more we produce, the more the lesser is the production cost per unit. And therefore the prices tends to come down when the cost of production is less per unit. Therefore the per unit price also comes down. So and thus the management task was to focus on more production and distribution activities. Now the assumptions of these concepts were anything that can be produced can be sold. So the organizations or the manufacturers at that particular era, they were of the opinion that whatever is produced, the quantity or what type of product, that they were all sold. And most important task of management then was to keep the production cost down, to bring the production cost down. That means it was easy to bring down the cost, the price of the product, and the firms produce only those certain basic products. Those were required, and they were able to sell it conveniently. So a good product and a good sales, that was the marketing philosophy at this stage, what we call it as a production oriented stage. So the another stage, when the time passed on, the manufacturers started to realize, maybe because of the, let's assume that there were the competition entered into the scenario, and therefore this concept, the product concept, therefore emphasizes that the consumers favor those products that offer the best of the quality, performance, and features, and thus the organization or the firms concentrated more on improving product continuously. So when the competition entered into the market, it was again, the organizations then might have felt that it is now very difficult to sell as to whatever they are producing, and therefore this gave rise to the another aspect to run the organizations, or to sell their product successfully, is to focus on the product. So the main aspect of this concept is that if product is of good quality, no marketing effort is required, as long as quality of the product is good and its price is reasonable, affordable. So therefore, the organization slowly realize that if the product is good, therefore then no marketing is required, because the features of the product combined together with the best of the quality of that era or of that particular time period. So the product will be sold. That means the consumers will buy the products on their own, and therefore this concept remained as an important guidelines for the manufacturer, and still holds its importance in businesses. However, the manufacturers believed that no matter how good quality products you come out with, consumers always look out for a better solution for the problem. And therefore, this is again a human aspect, the human weakness, that whatever they are getting, they look out for something more. And therefore, even when the best of the products was made available to the people, they always look out for another improved product or a new product with more added features, or with more solutions to the problems. And this again, I felt like that it is not the consumers, they pick up the products on their own. Again, it is again a human tendency that they, when it comes to paying and getting the product or buying the product, the conscious mind says, okay, fine, now whether should I go for this, or whether should I know whether I might not be cheated by buying the product. And therefore this philosophy again, this does not work. I mean, it works now, but it has again certain problems, and therefore the people, they do not pick up their product on their own. One has to give the product into their hands. Now, this philosophy, keeping this in mind, the another stage that has been called as the sales oriented stage or orientation stage, that is the selling concept of marketing. Now, the selling concept of marketing, just gives, in the heart of a heart, in the mind, that it's to get rid of what you have. That means you have produced something. Well, you produce something means a product. Now, then you look out for as to how to sell it. So that to get rid of as to what you have made, get rid of it, somehow you have to sell this product. You have to give it to the consumers. So therefore, keeping this in mind, this concept holds the importance of sales efforts to be undertaken to make consumers buy the products which otherwise will remain unsold, because the people, they do not pick up the the products on their own. Somebody have to make them, to give them, and to pick up, so that they pick up the product and give the money. Hence, reshaped philosophy was the sales orientation that holds to a certain extent even today. It states that merely by making the best of the product, it is not enough. It is futile unless the firm resorts to aggressive salesmanship supported by effective sales promotion, advertising, public relations. And therefore, the essence of sales orientation philosophy, goods are not bought but sold. So this again, say, it's a very important feature to understand that the goods are not bought but sold, and therefore the importance of salesmanship comes into the picture. The assumptions of this theory may be, like producing best possible products, one. Another is finding a buyer for the product. You have to, you have already made the product. Now you have to look out to whom to sell the product. So therefore, one has to look out for the, the buyers or the consumers for the product you have already manufactured, or you have already made it. That the main task of management, therefore, is to convince the buyer through high pressure techniques. So therefore, the whole understanding of this particular concept is that we manufacture product with the help of the promotions, the sales takes place. Uh, Now, again, this theory has got certain inhibitions, inhibitions in the sense there are certain difficulties that whatever you have manufactured, now there's no choice but to sell it somehow. And it is very difficult, to sell it somehow. It is, for example, your mother cooks food every day for you, and if she at all has to cook, if she, for example, she cooks the same any one dish for you, this which is being not liked by the majority of the family members, it would be difficult for her to, to make the family members eat the dish. But however, if she at all has to manufacture, if at all to cook the food, let's assume that she cooks the food which the family members like, the dish the family members like. So therefore she might not have to, put the pressure techniques to ask them to, to take the food or to eat the food. Similarly, it is very difficult once you have produced it. So the whole idea is, when you have to manufacture a product, why not to manufacture as to what is the requirement of the customers. So therefore, it was very difficult to sell the to always use pressure techniques to sell the products. And this again, put into the minds of the professionals, into the minds of the people who were associated with the organizations, to look out for another convenient way so that it becomes convenient to sell the products. And that gives rise to the another stage, that is the marketing orientation stage. Now, let us understand this way. Firstly, the competition made producers realize that the products should not be sold without effective sales force. This is one. And the consumer's importance was further realized, but only as a means of disposing of goods and services produced. So therefore, it is essentially more or less like production orientation, though for differentiation it is termed as the marketing orientation stage. So this is again the marketing for orientation. The marketing philosophy comes into the tries to, reshape the concept from the sales concept to the marketing concept. The key task of the organization is to determine the needs and wants and values of the target market, and to adapt the organizations to deliver the desired satisfaction more effectively and efficiently than its competitors. Hence, the aim of marketing is to know and understand the customer so well that the product or the service fits him and sell by itself. Now, before going further into the next stage, let us now here discuss about the difference between the sales and marketing concepts. That is, as to what is the philosophy of selling and what is the philosophy of marketing. So let us have a clear demarcation as to what do we mean by this. Now, having said this, one thing I would like to make it very clear at this stage is that when we are talking about the various I've discussed about the various stages, that does not mean that these stages or those stages were not right and there was something wrong in it. No, for example, the production oriented orientation, the product orientation still holds on even today, but the way of looking on these, merely the production oriented stage to run the organization, or merely the product oriented orientation to run the organizations. No, there were difficulties, and therefore, the various philosophies evolved over a period of time. So as I said, now let us discuss on the difference between sales and marketing concept. So, the very first distinction is that the selling focuses on the need of the seller. So that means that all those organizations which follow the selling philosophy or the sales philosophy, they manufacture products as per their own requirement, as per their own resources, as per their own technology, and therefore, and they produce the product to sell it into the market. The marketing philosophy stresses on the need of the buyer. So the marketing philosophy, all those organizations which follow the marketing philosophy, they are of the opinion that if at all they have to manufacture product, why not to produce or manufacture those products which are needed by which are required by the buyer. So there is a clear distinction between these two philosophies. The second is the selling concept or the selling orientation is the cost determines the price. And then marketing is consumer determines the price and price determines the cost. Now let us understand as to what does it means to cost determines the price. Now when we say about cost, that is the manufacturing cost of the product. For example, the manufacturing cost of the product, or say any products may be of a wristwatch, for example, is 200 rupees. So now what I have to do is, as a manufacturer, as a seller, as a as a marketing, not my sales department, what my intention would be that the cost is 200 rupees. I have to add a profit to it, and that will lead to the price of the product. So for example, 50 rupees profit, so the cost of the product is 250 rupees. This is what the consumer has to pay. So the cost determines. Now the price cannot be lower down than the rupees 200, because actually the product has already been manufactured, and therefore the cost of the manufacturing cost of all of the product comes to be, or the wristwatch, it comes to be rupees 200, and then you add a profit to it, certain profit, and that equates to the price. Now the marketing philosophies says that consumer determines the price and price determines the cost, meaning thereby that the consumer, they require the wristwatch because they want to see, it becomes convenient to see the time throughout the day and night, and therefore, but they are ready to pay, for example, 150 rupees. So the marketing philosophy is of the opinion that the people or the consumer, they're ready to buy the product. In this case, it is wristwatch, but they are ready to pay only, they are ready to forego with, say, rupees 150. So, and this price determines the cost, and therefore these 150 decides upon that the manufacturing cost should be lower than 150 rupees, and therefore all the task of the marketing department would be to somehow to manufacture the wristwatch within say the cost of 150 rupees, keeping in mind that the consumer is ready to shell out 150 as a price total cost, and therefore the cost plus the profit, and therefore it should be, for example, if the organization is able to manufacture this, hypothetically speaking, say this wristwatch at the cost of rupees 130 and then 20 rupees as a profit, now the total price becomes the 150. The consumer is is ready to shell out 150 rupees because this wristwatch is now costing the consumer 150 rupees. So that means in a way, when we talk about marketing, so that means 130 we determine for it is the total cost, and then you move backwards, so that if you are able to bring down the cost to 130, the manufacturing cost to 130. Now the question arises, if not, then the organization should think about whether to go with this product or not, because if they want to go, they have to manufacture or produce this product within the limits of 130 rupees, taking into consideration 20 rupees as a profit in the price. So therefore, this becomes easy. If you're not able to, that means you should go for another product in the market, because you will not be able to sell it, because consumers, they are not ready to pay more than the 150 rupees. And in case of sales, for example, the limitation which should come out in your mind as a student of business, that if you have already made the product at a particular price, as to what is the cost you have undertaken during the manufacturing, that is the manufacturing cost comes to 150. Now you cannot lower down, because lowering down the price less than 150, that means than the manufacturing cost, then the organization definitely will be incurring the losses. So the third difference is the seller's motive is to dominates the marketing communication. Now, and in the marketing concept, it is marketing communication is looked upon as a tool for communicating the benefits provided by the product. So in the seller's aspect, because the product has been already been manufactured, and therefore the whole objective of informing the customer is to initiate with an aggressive salesmanship. Aggressive salesmanship is because the seller has already manufactured the product, and therefore it is of utmost importance that it should be sold to the customer. So the full the dominating tactics is being done by the sellers, because they are helpless. Their product has already been manufactured, and therefore the whole objective is to somehow to sell this product. The marketing communication, the medias of communication, various medias of communication, they look upon it as a tool for communicating the benefits provided by the product. The whole idea or the philosophy is that if the customer should be informed about the product, about its price, about its features, about the benefits that the consumer will derive after buying the products. The next point is the firm makes the product first and then figure out how to sell. Now, if looking into the discussions, it is very easy now to find out that the organization or the firms, they make the product on their own, the first, and then they look out for the various means as to how now to sell it. No options left. In the marketing philosophy, for the same aspect, is what is to be offered as a product is determined by the customer. That is, marketing efforts leads to the products that customer actually wants. Now the marketing philosophy says, if at all one has to manufacture the product, why not to manufacture as to what does the customer requires or the customer want. And therefore, before manufacturing, the organization or the marketing people should reach to the customers, try to understand their requirements, and then put their their requirements or their problems into the product. And this would be done by the marketing, the research department. They look out for the as to what the customer they want, as to what their problems are, and then the research and development department, they convert those into the product. If they are able to, it becomes easy to sell the product now, because the customer have got certain problems, and those problems are, the solutions for those problems are already been given in the, or been incorporated in the product in the form of features. So it becomes easy, now when the organization manufacture the product as per the requirements of the customers, it becomes, much more, in terms of percentage, it becomes much more viable to now to sell the product. It require, the salesmanship and the sales efforts are required even now to sell the product, but it becomes easy for the salesman now to sell the product to the customers. No pressure techniques are required. And therefore, the next or the fifth point is that selling is preoccupied with sellers' need to convert the product into cash. Now, this is what they have already made the product on, say, X price, or say, rupees 10. Now, they want to convert this is into cash. That means the sooner they are able to sell the product, the faster the money comes in terms of, the cash. The marketing is with the idea of satisfying the needs of the customer by means of the product. Now, when you manufacture the product as per the requirement of the customers, they will buy the product. And if the product is according to the customer's requirement, then there are much more chances that the consumer, after buying the product, becomes satisfied as to with his or her decision that they have chosen the right product, and therefore, ultimately it leads to satisfaction. The next point is the selling views the customer as the last link in the business. This, this states that when the organizations, they manufacture the product on their own, and then they look out for the customers. So the customer is the last link. First is they just made the product, then they are looking out for the customer. Marketing views the customer as the very purpose of the business. Now, with this marketing view, all those market organizations which follow or want to follow the marketing the philosophy of doing the business, is that they understand that the customer is the very purpose. Now, the same customer is the central point of the whole business. That meaning thereby that if you reach to the customer first, and then you manufacture the product according to the requirement, according to the needs, even including at what price, that is what I have discussed earlier also. That means you are very close to sell the product to the customer. And the seventh point of the distinction is the different departments of the organization operate as separate. Now, this is, the production department makes the product as to what they want to make. The marketing department has to have to sell the product. For example, now the market is, for example, of 100 customers. Now, and the production is of only 60 units. For example, let's take an hypothetical example. That means there was again a shortfall for 40 units, which the customers will buy, from either from another company, or a complementary product for that matter. And therefore, because they are not in tune with each other, meaning thereby that if the marketing people says that they will be able to sell 100 units, the production department's job is now to manufacture 100 units so that the market can be covered. This is again a hypothetical example to understand this particular point. In marketing, all the departments of the business operate in highly integrated manner. For example, now in this particular example, if it at all, if they are able to sell 100 units, so that means the production should produce 100 units, and therefore the finance department should arrange for the money for the requirement of to produce the 100 units, and therefore the HR job would be to look out for the people to manufacture these, given the under the consideration or the constraints. So these 7 points are the clearly distinguished between as to what does this selling concept is and as to what this marketing concept is. And therefore, when we talk about marketing concept, therefore, so the philosophy, initiates the points out the fundamental task of business undertaking is to study and understand the needs, the wants, and the desires of the potential customers and produce the goods in the light of these findings so that consumer satisfaction are met totally. Hence, the starting point is customer and the product. It emphasizes that role of marketing research well before the product is made available to the marketplace. And therefore, the basic assumptions of this marketing philosophy is firms should produce only those products as desired by the consumers. And the management is to integrate all the activities in order to develop program to satisfy the consumer wants. And the another important aspect assumption of this particular concept is that the management is guided by a long range profit goals rather than quick sales. So again, this means that there are two radical changes in the philosophy and the two basic changes, that is the movement from the production to the market orientation and gradual shift from the production to the consumers aspect. And so therefore this philosophy is still continuing and will continue so as long as the customer is the king. That means the customer is the central aspect or the central point of should be of any business. Now the next and the another stage is which has been moved a little later, and it is of a recent origin, that is the social orientation philosophy. Now there has been further refinement in the marketing concept, particularly during the late 1990s and 2000. The social orientation philosophy goes beyond understanding the consumer needs and matching those with the product accordingly. This concept, codes not only for the consumer satisfaction but for the consumer welfare. So, this concept underlines the importance of marketing activities to support and ensure social well being. Social welfare, generally speaks of, for example, pollution free environment, quality of human life. For example, automobile not only fuel efficient should be, but also less pollutant as well. So this is one aspect. It's not only you are making a fuel efficient car, for example, and it is giving more pollution to the environment. So the whole idea is if one must manufacture the fuel efficient car but with the lowest possible, the should give a low environmental threats. Thus the social welfare becomes the added dimension to the marketing department. So that's all in this particular topic. This is to remind my viewers that you may go to the description box wherein I have uploaded various other videos on the different topics of marketing. Thank you.